how to live a very balanced life.
I've totally sacrificed my friendships, and I've definitely sacrificed my family. And yeah, I only get 4 to 6 hours of sleep every night.
Struggles with managing your time, how to solve issues with love, life, money, or your spiritual journey.
I can't stress to you enough, it's important to live a very balanced life.
Dani is the counterweight to give you balance.
Do you find that you're not living out your life the way you want it to?
This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show, a show that is here every day. Actually, radio and television 6 days a week, 7 days a week. You can catch this on the website, DaniJohnson.com, where we tackle daily topics concerning your success. I know you desire to be successful, and there's so much stuff that's out there, all kinds of experts who are feeding you content that, well, sometimes is just a bunch of rubbish, and I'm sure you know that. There is largely an attitude out there that, if you want to be successful, you try to win the lottery, you hope to kiss a prince, and, hope to kiss a frog and it turns into a princess or a prince, that marrying the right person is the answer for your success, finding the right business, finding the right job. And it pretty much puts most of us out there on some search for something that absolutely doesn't exist. So here on the Dani Johnson Show, we redefine success. You have a destiny, friend, and you know you do. It's calling out to you. And that destiny has a path, and it's a path that filled with failures as well as successes and hopefully lessons that you're pulling from those things. Well, today we're going to look at how the world sees men. Predominantly, we're going to look at how the United States of America views men, because that's the majority of the listeners on our show. And do we have the right approach concerning men? What is our definition of a real man? And this is the time where the ladies are actually going to get the opportunity for us to shut up and listen. And this is going to be the opportunity for the guys actually to control the microphone and for them to get their opportunity to say, this is what I believe a real man is. And this is what I wish women would understand about me, the man. So I think we have a chance to learn some great things today. And you might be thinking, well, Dani, what does that have to do with my success? It has everything to do with your success. Let me tell you why. I've worked with hundreds of thousands of people over the last couple of decades, and as a person who has focused on helping other people to succeed, half of my database is men, half of my database is women. And what I have noticed is that when people have a false image, a false expectation about the opposite gender, it creates all kinds of problems in their business and their career, definitely their finances, and absolutely in the home. And so to me, I believe that success is supposed to be holistic. It's supposed to be whole, all areas of your life. And there's sometimes when all areas at the same time just seem to be singing hallelujah. And there's other times where it seems to be singing a horror film soundtrack, right? Maybe this horror film soundtrack is happening in your relationship with your teenager or your toddler or your husband or your wife, or it might be happening at work with somebody in your management team. Or the general populace, you're not being able to get new customers. The bottom line is if you carry improper views or wrong expectations concerning men, this largely hurts your earning potential. It really does. If you're a guy or a girl and you have got some deep-seated, rooted issues concerning men, maybe you were abandoned by your father. Maybe you were beaten like I was by who you thought was your father. I found out when I was nearly 18 that the man that raised me wasn't even my dad. I guess you could still call him dad, and I did call him dad, but that he wasn't even my biological father. I was lied to my whole life. And that man emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, sexually, and physically abused me. And so obviously my idea about men was not a good one. I did not trust them. I didn't think I needed them. To me, my life would be so much easier without a man. I certainly believe that all men were the same, as my mother would actually say to me, and that they only wanted one thing. So I had a really bad view about men, and I had just broken, terrible relationships with men as a direct result. I found like I couldn't work with them. I had a hard time learning from them. And then there was another season of my life where I was like looking and hoping and searching for the man who would actually be a good guy. And yeah, I came up dry in lots of cases in that way. And then I came to a place where even idolizing them. So our childhoods and our experiences in those early developmental years have a lot to do with how we see men and even how men see themselves. And we live in this culture, especially the post-feminist culture that has told all of us women that we are as strong as them, that we don't need them, they're nothing but a sperm donor. And I have to tell you, I am 100% against that kind of a mindset. You can call me a right-winged, conservative if you'd like, whatever, call me whatever you like. But I challenge you today that I want you to look at what is your perspective on men. Do you understand what a real man is? Do I understand what a real man is? I really don't. I actually want to learn. I've kind of been on this quest for the last few years of really wanting to learn. And I think the best people to learn from is from men, to ask them about what they feel that they are, to kind of get inside of their heads and try to understand where they're coming from. Because newsflash, my friend, we are all different. And guess what? We're not getting out of this life without living with them. Period. Whether you're a man or a woman, you're still going to have to encounter men. And I know men that don't trust men. I know men that don't like to be around men. I know those men. And I know men who are trying not to be like the man in which raised them, which also then turns into can be a disaster on another side of the coin. And so we're going to uncover that today, and we're going to kind of define, if you will, or redefine, reshift a perspective, because it really does fit into whether or not you succeed. Because men are people, women are people. Money comes from men and women. And if we're not good at working with them, we're not good at pulling the best out of them, if we're not good at being able to work in harmony with them, understanding them, instead of assuming foolishly and coming up with our own conclusions that are rooted in what? Some man-hater that gave you an opinion, or the popular television and all the commercials that are out there that are ridiculous. Come on now. Look at the two sides of the spectrum that we see even through the media. Come on, I'm sure you saw a commercial even yesterday, or maybe even right before this show was airing on television, that you probably saw the commercial. Why is it that in the commercials, the women are always the superhero and the guy is always the lazy, bloated fool who isn't taking care of himself or anyone else? How come there's always a big question mark over his head, and that he's the idiot, and he's slow, and he's like not up to speed at all, and he's just some video gaming, junk food eating, barbecued chicken, whatever, bloated codfish. I mean, that's really how our commercials are selling men to us wives, to us, to the men, and to our children. And then let's go to the other extreme. You got Dennis Craig. Is that his name? Daniel Craig, right? 007, the most recent no, not the most recent, but the one before the last. But there's a 007. And okay, so what is that picture of men? Oh, okay, well, he's perfectly fit. He doesn't ever eat. He never sleeps. He can be bombed. He can be shot out. He can jump out of a 12-story building and still run and put a tuxedo on and still look great and romance some chick. Really? I mean, these are the two pictures that are being force-fed to the women, to the men, and to the children. And if you think that the media doesn't have powerful imaging and messaging, and it isn't making a difference in our culture, you got a new thing coming to you, friend. We are all programmed by the media. Every one of us are being programmed by what they are feeding us, and they're telling us how we should view men. And if you haven't watched radio or television, if you haven't watched television or listened to the radio, then it could be that you've got music on your smartphone or whatever your device is that you listen to music. Listen to the lyrics and tell me what the lyrics are saying about men, right? If it's women singing about men, man, she's using him. She's using him for money. She's a gold digger, right? She's looking for gold in him. She's using this guy and then that guy and then another guy, okay? Or again, it's a guy, especially the country western singing stuff. Man, I mean, just think about the words that you are allowing to go into your head. Because garbage in, garbage out, and largely our opinion concerning about men has come from what other people have told us. And in some small cases, it's what we have personally experienced. So if it's like me, that I experienced a bad childhood with my stepfather. And so that was a bad example of somebody abusing his authority and crossing every boundary line that should be there and not protecting his family, but abusing his family. Okay, so then you take that scenario and now you plug me into movies. Now you plug me into music. Now you plug me into books. Now you plug me into posters. Now you plug me into all of the media and all the messaging and imaging that's going to my ears and my eyes. And now it's just feeding even more my bad perspective on men. And I believe that largely in our country, we have been completely programmed to hate men. I do. We've been programmed to see that we don't need them. They're nothing but sperm donors. Think about how many children have been born. In fact, my sister, Anyway, I've got somebody in my family that went to a sperm clinic and, yeah, they've got 2 kids. They're twin boys, and these kids came from a sperm donor. We don't know who the sperm donor is. We don't know anything about that sperm donor. They bought the sperm. They did the thing, and bam, here came 2 twin boys. They were just at my house recently. So do you understand? We have definitely sent a message out there. And I got to tell you, I was guilty of all those messages even coming out of my mouth to my husband in our early days. In our early days, I was terribly abusive with my mouth. And right when I got pregnant, out of wedlock with him, I told him, I said, hey, thanks for the sperm. You have no responsibility over this child at all. I do not need a father for this child. This child doesn't need a father. Thanks a lot. But you have no financial responsibilities here. I do not need any help from you. I don't feel the responsibility that somehow you have to be a father to this child. I got it covered. I don't need it. That's exactly what I told my husband before he was my husband, when he was my boyfriend. And for like 2 years, this is what I told him, that we don't need it. And I didn't think that was a harmful, terrible thing to say to him, but it was actually very emasculating, and I didn't even realize it. Again, I was a young kid who had that bad experience with my stepfather, abandoned by my biological father, who now we have an amazing relationship. It's been 27 years that we've had an amazing relationship. But at the same time, we have all of the movies, all of the sitcoms, all of the music, all the imagery, right? That just does nothing besides emasculate men. And I believe we have emasculated men. And then we have us women who, have been hurt by men, largely because we have provoked the hurt, largely because we walked into the relationship with all of our stupid baggage from our past, and we spoke that baggage out. We knew they were going to cheat. We knew we couldn't trust them. We knew they wouldn't provide. We knew that they would turn into the numbskull in which their mother said that they would be, and that mom had when she was married to the 4th guy that she was married to, right? So, this is just a disastrous mess. And so why do we want to redefine the imagery of mess in the mess of men right now? Why? I'm going to tell you. Because it really does affect your earning power in the marketplace. You got big barriers about men, you're going to hurt your potential in your career or your business. You need them. You absolutely need them. Okay? You got issues with men, it's going to hurt your relationship and your marriage. It's going to hurt the way you raise your kids. It's gonna rob you of something that you need if you're a woman and if you're a man, because men and women both have men issues. So let's define those issues and let's get over them today on The Dani Johnson Show.
The Dani Johnson Show. No excuses, no blaming, just real life. Stay tuned for more of The Dani Johnson Show.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success.
Now, more of The Dani Johnson Show.
Men aren't necessities. They are luxuries. That's a quote from Cher. Can you believe that an entire generation of people actually believe that nonsense? Wow. That just shocks me that somebody could boldly just get up and say something like that. And again, you've got to look at the fruit of the woman's life. Broken relationships. Do you think it might have been because she thinks that men are not necessities, but they are actually just luxuries? Have some more plastic surgery, but this time on your brain, woman. Gosh, man, this really upsets me. I am passionate about men being able to be men. And I believe that you and I need to learn from the men. We need to hear from them. We need to hear, from a man's perspective, what is a real man? So we're taking calls live right now, 844-200-3264. Again, that's 844-200-3264. We want the women to listen and learn, and we want the men to have the opportunity to speak. The microphone is yours. I'm going to line 1. I've got Brad from Victoria, Canada. Brad, welcome to the show. What is a real man in your perspective?
Good morning, ma'am. A real man. I don't think you asked an easy question. But I think a real man has certain roles in the home and in society. And I really think that in this day and age, we're not allowed to have those roles. Like,
what would you say those roles are? And why do you feel like you're not allowed to?
I believe one of those roles is the breadwinner, the protector of the home especially. And I feel in a lot of cases that's a role that women have kind of moved into and taken over. And that's how we've been taught. Men are taught now that when a woman puts her foot down, that's the end of it. Not a man doesn't really get to lead.
Right. So do you feel that the women working, that has that's a bad thing, that women actually are having jobs and contributing to the household, that's a bad thing?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I know that when I talk with the woman I love about it, like, I find that the most important thing is that I am providing. I'm paying the bills. I'm making sure there's food on the table. You know, she can make as much. If she makes $1 million a year, that's totally cool, as long as the money that I bring in, or whatever percentage that is providing for the home.
Yeah.
That's an amount of protection that I'm providing for the home.
Right.
I think it's wonderful that women are now in the workplace. I don't think it's wonderful how, in a lot of cases, the mindset that is developed from powerful jobs that women have, they bring back into the home and bringing that power back into the home.
Meaning, like, she's leading in the marketplace, she's leading in her job, and that a lot of women have a hard time then coming under, right, her husband when she gets into the home. So she's still bringing that kind of brute strength, calling the shots, right, bossing everybody around at the office and being the decision maker in her business or in her career or whatever. And then she comes home and now has to, you know, report basically to her boss, which is her husband. And so you're saying that you have found that women have a hard time doing that. They have a hard time, you know, changing roles. You know what I mean? From leader out here to, co-lead here. And now, you know, your husband is the final say. He's the final decision maker. He's the leader of the household. And yes, she can come alongside and help lead, but he's the first lead and she's that second position. So is that what you're saying, is that women just don't seem to want to take the second position in the home anymore?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
In a marriage, I feel like it should be two people serving each other, and I think our society has trained us away from that. We've entered into relationships where now it is the man's job to serve his wife, and I absolutely believe in serving your wife, but I think we've taken it a little too far. I grew up in a home where, mom ran the house. And I know when we had conversations about it, you know, if my dad put his foot down, they said that was the end of it, but I never saw that.
Right.
And I don't believe that's the right way to go about it.
So do you feel like your dad was not the head of the house?
Yes. I mean, my dad's the most amazing man, one of the most amazing men I know. I'm not discounting him at all, but I didn't really get to
see that leadership because your mom was so strong and your mom was the more dominant personality in the household. And yeah. Did your mom tell your father what to do? Did she demean him, like, in the home? Put him down, sarcastic in front of you guys with him?
Yep.
Yeah. That's incredibly demeaning. Yeah. That's incredibly demeaning. And I believe that the wives, and again, I've done it, lots of women have done it, it's wrong, but I think we're supposed to encourage and edify and honor instead of demean and be nasty. This is Dani Johnson. We're going to continue to hear from the men right after this.
Stay tuned for more of the Dani Johnson Show.
I just heard this amazing story. One of our clients had written us telling us that they had used job domination and unlimited success and has absolutely exploded their career. He said, Dani, I don't know where I'd be today without job domination and unlimited success. Listen, do you want more recognition from your coworkers? Do you want to be recommended to people all over the world? Do you want to be somebody that is highly sought after? Listen, if you're in a dead-end place where this gentleman found himself, but then learned new strategies and changed everything in his work life, and obviously this has resulted in higher bonuses and pay raises, you're next. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Job Domination right now. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Job domination, that's what you need. It's time for you to dominate the job market and break through the rut that you're in.
Giving you the playbook to design your life. This is the Dani Johnson Show. And now, here's Dani.
You are more than a sperm donor. Yes, Dani Johnson just said that. Hope that was okay. You are more than a sperm donor. We need you. We need fathers. We need husbands to lead. We need real men to rise up in the society. We need men to understand even what their identity and what their identity is rooted in. And it is a sad, horrible time that we live in, that we have destroyed manhood in our country and in other countries around the world. We've destroyed them with our mouths. We've destroyed them with us rising up, the women rising up and taking in positions that we should never take positions in. More than anything, our bad attitudes that we have from men that largely have come from our childhood, and the rest of it has come from the media and what media is selling us to what men are. But men have a purpose. They have a purpose. They have gifts. They have talents. They've been called by God to lead in the home. They've been called by God to be the protector, the provider. They've been called by God when they were formed together in their mother's womb to lead in society, to lead in their communities, to lead even in their churches. And I'm not saying that women cannot lead. Hello, I'm a radio and television show host. I'm a mother of 5, grandmother of 7, business owner. Okay, I understand the difficulties in today's world. And I got to tell you, there's a book that I'm reading right now that if you're a woman listening, and even if you're a man, I think that you should read this. I think it's a powerful right, and it's from Dr. Laura Schlesinger, actually, and it's the proper care and feeding of husbands. And man, I am not a feminist. I'm an anti-feminist person. I can't stand that whole movement. It is so rooted in judgment. It's so rooted in racism, honestly, and complete ignorance, in my opinion. And I know I just lost a few people that you hate my guts now. Oh, well, if you can't handle our differences, that's your problem, not mine. But the fact is that book is really exposing just the disease that has just filtered in to our society, and how, as much as I stand against feminism and I'm pro-man and I am pro-woman, and I'm pro of what our roles are and how we're supposed to walk in those roles and the balance that we have to walk in that, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But it's incredible how these different mindsets have just somehow lodge themselves in the deepest parts of our minds and our hearts, and they fly right out of our mouths, even though we don't believe in that kind of way of thinking, yet bam, here it comes out of our mouth. I know I'm guilty of it. I know, especially in my early years, my gosh. And then I had a complete warped sense of understanding about submission. I had a total warped understanding of that. And so it's been a challenging road in our relationship, my husband and I. The best way I can explain it is, we have seasons of absolute bliss separated by hurricanes and tsunamis and typhoons and tornadoes, sometimes all in the same weeks, sometimes all in the same months, sometimes all in the same year. But at the end of the day, my goal is to understand my husband better, to serve him better, to work out whatever crud I have in my heart that causes things to fly out of my mouth that should not, or attitudes that I should not have that are just clearly not godly. They're not pleasing to my Father in heaven. They're not pleasing to my husband. They're not pleasing to myself. They're not pleasing to my children. They're not pleasing to anybody around me. And on the Dani Johnson Show, we're all about redefining success and telling the truth about success. And here's the bottom line. If we cannot honor or respect one another, and if we cannot submit one to another, and if we cannot treat others the way we wish they would treat us, we're going to fail in business. We're going to fail in our finances. We're going to fail in our marriages. We're going to fail in our parenting. We're going to fail in our communities. The bottom line is that there's a very self-centered culture that we're living in that is saying, do whatever makes you happy. Whoever serves you, be with them. Whoever makes you happy, be with them. Do what you feel is right. That's a disastrous, failing plan. It is. And if you manage to amass a tremendous amount of success financially through that mindset, I promise you it ain't gonna last. And it's gonna be the most miserable life. We've seen people with millions who are miserable. I much rather have less and have harmony. But I have found there is a way to make millions of dollars and still have harmonious relationships with people you work and live with. But it takes character. It takes understanding people, especially understanding men, because they really are a huge part of all of our lives. Whether you're a man or a woman, men are a huge part of our lives, and that's never gonna change. We can't make babies without them. Oh, yes, I can, Dani Johnson. I can go to sperm bank. And use the sperm of what? A donkey? Huh? What are you going to use the sperm of? You still need a man. No matter which way you slice it, honey, pull your head out of the dirt. Start thinking. All right, so we're asking the men today, what is a real man? What is a man's role in today's society? What should it be? What are the main things that men are facing today? The biggest challenges they're facing today? And what is it about us women that drive you crazy? And what is it that we can do to help you be better men? Line 2, we got Chad from Minnesota. Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Dani, I'm so grateful that this topic is on your show today because this one's really, really close to my heart. I'm a father and I'm raising boys. Now, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, all of the gender roles were being gutted. Everything was being turned upside down. Now, all the men in my life were big, tough guys. They were hunters. They were carpenters. They were farmers. But me, I was an artist. I was a musician. And so I had to deal with questions about manhood and sexuality and some of these other things. And now, in my 40s, I've got a family to raise. I've got boys who need a good leader model, a good example to them of what a man is supposed to be so they know. So when they grow up, what am I supposed to be? Yeah. And the only things that I've found that are universal in my experience looking at this is, for a man, you need to take responsibility for yourself. Yeah. And for the people who are entrusted to your life, you need to be a man of character. Mm-hmm. This whether I'm a big tough guy or I'm a tender guy, I think Jesus was both. I think the great leaders in our history, those men had both characteristics. I think you can be tough. I think you can be gentle and tender with your family. Yeah. I think there's a real need for both in men in our culture. Yeah.
I agree. In fact, I believe that the best man that ever walked the earth had both, right? He's equated to the lion and the lamb. And so that is that gentle. I have to tell you, I have a brother from another mother. I believe he's going to be joining us later on in the show. But his name is Sean Harper. He's an ex-football player. I'm telling you, we are brother and sister. I mean, seriously. It's crazy. But he carries that. He's huge. He's 300, I think, and 20 pounds. He's an old football player. He played for 6 years for two different football, I think the Rams and the Colts. And he's massive. He is massive. He's like 3 men put together. Do you know what I mean? The thickness of his shoulders, the width of his shoulders. He's just this huge man. Yet, he could break you in a half second, but he has this gentle spirit about him. And when I see him with my sister Falana, his wife, oh my gosh, the gentle care that he has for her. But at the same time, when he's with me at First Steps to Success and he's part of our security detail, watch out. Anyone try to do anything to me? You're going flying about 100 feet because he's going to pick you up like you're a rag doll and just toss you like it's nothing. I see him pick up these heavy things like somebody else is like, but not Sean. I was like, it weighed nothing, right? He picks up my suitcase like it's nothing. But he has that beautiful, gentle spirit in the right places, right? And I believe that men need to be gentle with their wives. I don't believe that women, or wives especially, need to ever feel their husband's strength. Ever. Their physical strength. I think that is incredibly traumatizing for a woman, and that's in the case of any kind of abuse, physical abuse at all, whether she's being restrained, whether she's being pushed up against a wall. I don't believe that a man's physical brute strength is ever to come upon a woman unless he's saving her life. That's the only time that strength's supposed to be used. But that his gentle nature, how he talks to her, how he loves her, that needs to be there. But at the same time, he strongly needs to take responsibility. And I agree with you in that. And that to me, and I'll tell you from a woman's perspective, everything you said commands from me as a woman respect. Instantly. That I respect a man who is leading with taking responsibility over his home. I respect a man that has strength, and I respect a man that also is gentle in nature, in the appropriate places where he's to be gentle, where he's to be strong, and that he is responsible for his wife. He is responsible for his children. He is responsible for his job, for however which way he leads in the marketplace. And that, I will tell you from a woman's perspective, that causes us to respect you. And I believe, just what I've seen, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Chad, do you desire respect from your wife and from women?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all men do.
Yep. And that seems to be the thing that our culture has robbed you men of, respect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It took a long time. I've been married for 17 years now, and there were times when I wasn't responsible. I was just happy doing what I was doing, but I didn't have my wife's respect. And it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the nice home or anything else. It was about, are you taking responsibility for where we're going as a family?
That's right. Are you leading us? Where are we going? What's the plan? This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
The Dani Johnson Show, helping people just like you make life more enjoyable and rewarding. The Dani Johnson Show.
And I'm so blessed that I found what is in Grooming the Next Generation for Success. This is a book that is being taught in universities around the world. It's been noted as the best book on parenting that has ever been written. Crazy, if you ask me. But the point is that this thing gets results. Get your copy today, 888-757-8880. Again, that's 888-757-8880. Or go to DaniJohnson.com. That's D-A-N-I Johnson.com. Get your copy today.
No excuses, just results. And now, back to more of the Dani Johnson Show.
If women would just back off and let the guys do what the guys are called to do, everything would be better. That could be your mindset concerning men. What is a real man? Listen, I'm on a self-discovery myself. I believe that our society has emasculated men in a horrible, huge, calculated way. We asked a question on Facebook recently about what are the challenges that men are facing. We asked the women to not respond, and we said, men, this is your chance. Tell us. A lot of the responses came to this, that we're being emasculated by society and that we're not being able to provide for our families. We've already heard from 2 male callers, and we're going to continue to hear for the rest of the show from the men. We want to know, from your perspective, what is your biggest challenge that you are facing so us women can come alongside and encourage? Because if men are being emasculated by society at large, right? Look at the commercials, listen to the music, look at the movies. We see crazy, terrible imagery concerning men. Men being made fun of, women looking smart, men looking stupid, right? So we have a world that is telling men that we don't need them anymore. We don't need them at all. They're not a part of our society even. This, I believe, has largely casted a depression and oppression over the men, especially in this nation and in other nations that I've traveled to. And so we have men that don't even know who they are, what they're supposed to be doing, what their purpose is here on the earth. And so we want to hear from the guys what you feel is the biggest challenge you're having. We want to redefine your role. We got to get back to what the roots of what you were created to do, lift you up, encourage you. Here on the Dani Johnson Show, I am pro-man. I don't believe, and you might like want to slice me all to pieces all over Facebook or Twitter after I say this, but I don't think a woman should be president. That's my thoughts. Why? You want a woman that PMSs or is going through menopause with that red phone that could say bomb them, kill them all? Are you nuts? Are you nuts? We are emotional wrecks. That's the facts. We have crazy weaknesses. We can easily be manipulated. But see, we've grown up in a time, in a space that we've been told, oh, we're better than men. We're stronger than men. We're wiser than men. That's a bunch of nonsense. Men were made a certain way. Women were supposed to be made a certain way. We are to come together and co-labor together. We are to submit one to another. But oftentimes it is, he's not submitting to me and she's not submitting to me. No, that's not submission. A good leader, a good man of the home, is going to consider the concerns and the feelings and the desires of his wife, as well as his children, as well as the people that serve him in his office every day. He's going to be looking at the whole picture. Men have an ability to do that, where women really largely are focused on things that are right now. Okay? So here we've got men that have this way of thinking, this way of thinking things through that we just don't. And a good man is going to listen to those things. But again, we've had society just completely cut them off at their ankles and cast them aside. And I think we're seeing the challenges of that today. So enough from me. This show needs to be about the men. So John from Madison, Wisconsin, what do you feel is the biggest challenge that men are facing today? And how can we help you?
Hey, Danny, I'm just honored and humbled to be on the show, and I love this show. This is quite awesome. But I was born and raised Amish, and in the way that I was born, my mom was also a little bit more kind of ran the home or so on. And I've always thought, when I was growing up, whenever I'm going to get married, I would never want my wife to do whatever my mom did to my dad.
What did your mom do to your dad, John? What did mom do to your dad?
Well, she just, he would always, maybe say something, and my mom would, overreact and more or less kind of persuade him to, I don't want to say yelling, because she didn't never really yell, but she definitely let him know, what was going to happen. And she kind of ran the show from behind my dad, kind of behind his back. So I can't say that she wasn't the muscle of the family, but at the same time, she let herself be heard. And there was many arguments that we would hear. And my mom and dad, they didn't beat each other or anything like that. It was just all through the mouth.
Right. So you're saying that it's not so much of what your mom said, but it's how she said it. Meaning she was trying to persuade him with, well, it almost sounds like it was manipulation. You know what I mean? Yeah. With pressure.
I looked up something, for fathers. I went through a lot of different courses through different speakers, James Dobson, different ones. And one of them, I know one of them had talked about this one time, and it says that a father, is one that performs the offices of a parent by maintenance. So he's a muscle, but he's also affectionate, and then he has the counsel, and then he has protection.
Yeah.
And it's like so many fathers, when we left the Amish, we left for another faith, and we went to this, building, this church, and it felt like even there, Sunday school was taking my children away and teaching them.
Right.
And then elementary school came along. They're taking my children away and teaching them.
Yeah.
And there seems like everybody's pulling away your family, and you're left alone there. I feel very strongly that fathers need to be very, right on top of their children, helping them, encouraging them, teaching them, training them.
Yes.
And so I don't know. I'm not against church, but it really, to me, I was more against
being pulled away. I hear what you're saying. It's being pulled away, man. Right when you were explaining that, I literally saw that. And I got to tell you, oh gosh, it makes me sick to my stomach, actually, because the way we are in our habits in the modern culture, right? You're right. We go to church, we send our kids to youth group, right? That's the kid going away. And then, of course, we have all the sports that the kids are going and they're learning and being coached by somebody else. And then there's 8 hours of school that they're learning and being indoctrinated by somebody else. How much time does dad actually have to be able to lead his children? And I think what happens a lot of times is that fathers fall into the trap of there's no time. Well, they're going to school, they're learning that, they're learning from that soccer coach, and so that again says something to the man that you're not needed. You don't need to raise your kids because the soccer coach is, the teacher is, the church is. So, I get to see you for an hour or two a day, what more can we do, Man, that's scary, isn't it? Yeah, so that's kind of where fatherhood has been taken away in a lot of respects because everyone else is doing it for them. That's scary.
I read a book that says Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, and it's an amazing book. I mean, it's just, since reading that book, I've just been watching my daughters. I have 3 daughters and 3 sons, and it's just been amazing to watch them
Yeah.
You know, they come out of the bedroom all ready to go somewhere, and the first thing they'll do is they'll look at Dad and they'll go, "What do you think?" They always want the dad's
approval.
You know, acknowledgement. They want to see that I care. They want to see that I do respect them and honor them, and it's just, to me, that I love being a dad. I completely take it. I don't think I do everything I could do. I know I don't, but I love being a dad.
That's so awesome. I can hear that in your voice. And you're right. And when daughters have that kind of approval and affection and attention from their fathers, they don't go and seek it out in other places. John, thanks so much for your input. I appreciate you, as well as those 2 books that you felt have helped you tremendously. This is Dani Johnson. We're letting the men have the mic today, telling us what they feel is the important role of a man and the things that they are challenged by in society and how we can all help. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Don't just stand there. Soak this up. It's joy, it's encouragement, it's insight to a better life and how to meet your obligations and overcome obstacles. The Dani Johnson Show. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your freedom, your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
The Dani Johnson Show is here to help you.
We want to see your economy thrive.
Helping you focus and set your priorities.
And you can do this by learning the skill sets, the strategies, and the mindsets of 2% of the population.
The Dani Johnson Show. Listen closely.
What are your weaknesses? What are your greatest strengths? And what are your weaknesses?
Learn how to make the most out of your strengths in this life and how to grow in the direction that is best for you and your family. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
There are things that women do that drive men crazy. I know for a fact, I've seen it on my husband's face. And every time I'm driving him crazy, it usually ends up in some kind of a little fit, some kind of little argument, sometimes a little squabble, sometimes an all-out war. And the fact is that oftentimes I have no idea what I'm doing or what I've done that has caused this thing. And so today we're dedicating this show to the men. I want to learn. I want to learn from you. I believe that largely women do not want to provoke men into wrath. That's the last thing in the world that we want to do. But I think there's so many differences, and not to mention the pressures of society. The pressures of society that are telling men, we don't need you. We will teach your kids in school. We will teach your kids with sports. We will teach your kids with television. We'll teach your kids with the music. And we're going to tell them how they should think about politics. We're going to tell them how they should think about manhood. We're going to tell them what they should think about money. Where's dad in the whole picture? Not to mention, we have come right out and said, we don't need you. We don't need you. And then on the other side, the women have the pressures of society to try to be a man. That we've been pressured in trying to be perfect, trying to do it all, trying to manage it all. I mean, this is a collision from hell, in my opinion. And on the Dani Johnson Show, we're always bringing up the topic of success and looking at this through the scope of success and coming up with a new definition of success. Because success largely to the majority of the population is winning the lottery. Finding the right business, marrying the right person. That's all a lottery. That's all a crapshoot, my friend. That is not going to bring you success. But how you treat people, how you respond to people, how you work in the marketplace with men, hello, determines whether or not you get bonus, promoted. Hello, whether you not get raises. Determines whether or not your business will succeed. Because if you have the same kind of mindsets that I had in my early days about men, you can't trust them. They only want one thing. They're good for nothing and I don't need them. I don't want one in my life. They're nothing but a burden. That's exactly what my mama taught me. That's exactly what my experience being raised by my violent stepfather taught me. That's exactly what my experience with my first husband that, in 4 months of marriage, cheated twice. And then I ended up leaving me with $2.03 to my name and a $35,000 debt. My business was totally embezzled by another guy. Hello. I got pregnant at 17 and the man of that child, bam, wanted nothing to do with it. I had a whole history by the time I was 21 proving me that my mother was right, proving to me that I don't need one, that the biggest problem in my life is a man. Well, I'm telling you, that couldn't have been the furthest thing from the truth. It really couldn't have been the furthest thing from the truth. I had to change the way I thought about men. I needed to get healed. I needed counseling from that trauma that I suffered as a kid and even as a young adult. I need to be trained up to understand the role of a woman and the role of a man. And once I started to learn those things, yes, things got easier. It doesn't mean that things are perfect. It just means that things got easier. So we can't live without men. Whether you're a man or a woman, you're going to have to work with them. You're going to have to live with them. And sometimes you give birth to them. We have got to get rid of and redefine for us what is the role of a man, what is a real man. Because if we take on the mindset of society, we're heading to hell in a handbasket, that's all I gotta say. We're heading to hell in a handbasket. We have a lot of men who are confused about their identity today. We have a lot of women who are confused about their identity today. And this hurts the economy. Dani, you're crazy. How does it hurt the economy? It does. It does. You think about the people who have a judgment or they've got a bad attitude about the opposite sex. They are racist concerning gender. Racism is ignorance. It's complete ignorance, especially concerning gender, meaning the entire male human race. You have to have them. They will be your customers. They will be your co-laborers in your career. And you cannot have the wrong attitude about them. So if you want to be successful and lead a company someday or lead in the company you're working for, you want to lead in the home, you have got to have the right heart, the right attitude, the right perspective concerning the gender of the entire male human race. If you don't, and you are a woman, you will emasculate your sons. And we have an entire generation of emasculated sons who are totally confused. They don't know who they're supposed to be. They don't know what they're supposed to act like. Not to mention, let's look at the clothing today that we are putting on guys. There are husbands wearing their wives' clothing, and it seems to be just okay. Dani, that's just our culture. That's just a style. Whatever you want to say. Whatever you want to say. I see emasculation all over the place. And it's largely mom's fault. Largely her fault. It is. And then dad's part, he didn't step up. He was pushed down by society and the wife. And he let it happen. So we're both in trouble with this deal. So in order for us to succeed, I'm telling you right now, you better redefine your idea of success, buddy, because you ain't getting through this life without men. You will not succeed without men. And good men, strong men, leading men, providers, protectors. Hello? Mace from San Antonio, what's your idea of a real man?
How you doing, Dani?
Good.
Awesome. I'm doing great. I love this subject right here.
I do too. Teach me, man. What is your idea of a real man? Or what do you have to say about what I'm talking about? Why do you love today's show?
Today's show is obviously we all know it's an ongoing problem. Mm-hmm. But I think the root issue, like you said earlier, is knowing the identity of who you are and accepting who you are.
Yeah.
And the responsibilities, because our response is our responsibility. Mm. Especially if you're married.
Yep.
And you're able to control it. So our men's deepest need is respect.
Yep.
First and foremost. And a woman's deepest need is love.
Yep.
That is. Now, the issue is men, we don't really know how to love. Truly.
Yeah.
We don't even understand the concept of that.
Yep.
We do our very best to love and express and be affectionate. But honestly, we cannot express it like a woman can.
Yep.
So genuine and so natural. It's bam. And I think that's where the issue lies for the men, is that on the other side of the note, women have an issue of knowing how to give respect.
Yep.
Because that's not their deepest need.
Yep.
And I think that right there is the root issue. So
Yep.
I think like positive affirmation from the woman.
Yep.
Honoring her husband, or even if you're single and you're working with people or whichever, give that affirmation, because it will light a fire in that man and it will just boost his confidence like you would not believe. He'll take you and everybody else so much further.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've seen the effects of disrespect in my own marriage relationship in my early days where I slaughtered my husband, Mace. I slaughtered him, even without even knowing what I was doing, right? This whole mindset, I didn't need a man. Even when I got pregnant with Erica, I was like, I don't need you. I can do this on my own. And it wasn't like he was trying to get out of the responsibility. I just told him flat out, I said, listen, buddy, thanks for the sperm. I don't need a father for the child. And so you be completely footloose and fancy free. I am financially set. I don't need any help. Thank you so much for the gift that you gave me. But this is where it stops. Period. Right. And he pursued. I mean, he absolutely chased me down because he wanted to be the father of his child, and he did everything he possibly could to be that. But I saw the effects, Mace, of the nasty notes I would write him right after we got married, and I wanted a divorce, and I hated his guts, and I put him down because he didn't make enough money, in my opinion. I put him down because he was gone too much. I put him down, I put him down, I put him down, and I watched this guy just die. And it was amazing what happened when I began to get this revelation that he needed respect, and that my mouth, I was doing to him what my father did to me. That's what it was. It all came from there. My dad verbally abused me, so I turned around and I verbally abused my husband, and it destroyed us. And it wasn't until I got that revelation that God loved him, and that if I was going to be a woman of God, that I needed to love him, and I needed to speak life over him, and to treat him as though he was the man that I saw him to be originally. Right when I first met him, I saw so much potential. He was 18 years old. He had so much hope, so much promise. And then there I was. Now he's 20. We're married. And I wanted him away from my life. So I began to speak life. And I began to encourage, and I began to put focus and pour kerosene on the fire of encouragement in his life. He became a millionaire. He made his first million.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
That's key right there, Dani. You hit it right on the spot.
Yeah.
And it is so serious. I mean, if you look in the Word of God, it says that you're the helper.
Yep.
Well, okay, helper in so many areas, like you wouldn't believe. Men need a woman. Like, it is just there is no doubt we cannot do what God has taught us to do if you are not in there.
Yeah. So you're saying, Mace, because I want to get into this. So when you're saying, because for some reason when you just said this, because I've heard this 1,000 times, that the woman is the helper. For some reason that has put a picture in most of us women's heads that it's demeaning. But what I just heard you say, for some reason there was just something on it that I helped my husband to become successful by encouraging him instead of right.
Yes, ma'am. That is what it is right there. I mean, you ladies do it so genuine. It's normal. You don't even have to work at it. It's like bam, 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 and there it is, and it's so good. Whereas men, on the other hand, we really have to work at it.
Yeah.
Really have to work on being so encouraging and so sympathetic, and let me put my pride or my manhood aside for a minute, and let me look at this and try to understand this whole picture. It's so difficult for us to do that.
Yeah.
So when you ladies do it, oh man,
wow.
I love it.
Wow.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
You want to see me succeed? Speak life into me, and that's what you're gonna get.
Wow.
But if you complain, now it goes both ways.
It does.
Men can complain about their wives. They can complain about it, and I see it like this. Either you have to have a vision for your wife. What's the vision that you see in your wife? Or if you're working with people that are women,
yeah,
you're a man and you're in that position, then you have to have a vision for them, and you have to stay with that vision.
Yeah.
No matter what, no matter if they fail. And if they do fail, then that's when you give grace.
Yeah.
You have to continue, like Jesus, you have to continue to see the unseen.
Amen. Amen. Mace, thanks so much, man. What you've said is so profound. I really appreciate your input today. This is Dani Johnson. We're going to hear more from the men as they own the mic today on the Dani Johnson Show. You want to succeed, right? But you do not want to fail God at the same time. There is a way to succeed from a biblical perspective. And it's far greater than anything you could ever imagine. Over 500 scriptures I studied to study money, everything that the Bible said about money. That's in the first couple chapters of Spirit-Driven Success. Not to mention leadership, working with people, growing a career, being used mightily in the marketplace, which is where Abraham, God used him in the marketplace. And Joseph, God used him in the marketplace. Moses, God used him in the marketplace. Daniel, Solomon, really all of the greats of faith, most of the greats of faith throughout the Bible, they all were in the marketplace. And God wants to show you how you can be used mightily by him in the marketplace. Right here, Spirit-Driven Success is where all of my notes are on how you can do that. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Spirit-Driven Success today.
Helping you get a grip on your priorities and your focus. The Dani Johnson Show. Here's Dani Johnson.
Encouragement acts like kerosene on a small fire, sends it into an inferno for a man. That's what we just heard from Mace from San Antonio. We're talking about success in your business, your finances, and your relationship. And a cornerstone piece for your success is how you treat men. Yes. You're like, what? What you talking about, Dani Johnson? What do you mean? What does how I treat a man have to do with my success if you're a man or a woman? It has everything to do with your success. Why? Because they are all around you, fool. You live with them. You work with them. You purchase things from them. You fly on an airplane with them. And so today we are discovering, what do they need from us? What makes a man tick? What makes a man a real man? And man, we have heard some incredible things. I'm learning a lot today. We decided that today's show, the men owned the mic. We wanted to get their opinions instead of another show with another woman giving her opinion about men. Why don't we hear from the guys? So ladies, it's time to shut up and listen. And guys, you got the floor. You teach us. What makes you tick? What brings the best out in you? Who are you? How do you think? What are the challenges that you have? What Mace actually was just saying was that we, the women, are the helpers. And I was telling him how I was such a nag and such an evil woman in my first year of marriage with my husband. And that when I finally saw, and it really, honestly, it was God. He said to me, he says, now what kind of a man do you think you're supposed to be married to? It's like, I need to be married to a millionaire who has his own money that doesn't need my money to live off of. Okay, well, how would you treat that man? I'm like, oh, wow, I would have an incredibly beautifully cooked meal for him. I would rub his shoulders. I would make sure I looked good every day. The house would look amazing. I would just dote over him. I would just not be able to wait for him to get through that door so I could just hug him and kiss him and bat my brown eyes at him with my Bambi eyelashes. And then God said, no, you wouldn't. You'd treat him the same way you're treating Hans today. And I just went, what? And he showed me the way I was treating my husband. He showed me. I began to weep. And I said, what should I do? Treat him as though he is that millionaire already. Treat him as though he is that man that is providing already. Treat him as though he is that powerful, influential man that you feel you want to be married to. And I did. That day on, I began to treat him as though he was that man. And what happened? My husband became that powerful, influential businessman who generated millions of dollars. So, did it work? Yes. That works for all things. You treat your business as though it is the success it is already. Quit walking in doubt and fear. You treat others as though they are already who you see them to be. And you'll be amazed what gets birthed. So as the helper, females, we are the helpers in a man's life. We work with men. We have sons, some of us. We live with men. The way we can help them reach their destiny is simply encouraging them, respecting them, believing in them. This then gives fuel to their fire and helps them go to war every day, slaying those demons, those monsters, and getting out there and providing for their families. Society has told men that we don't need them. That's what society has told men. We don't need them. They're a useless nuisance. They're a burden on us. We can go around them. We'll find a different way. Our society has said, you don't need to teach your kids anything. Here's a public school system. Society has said, you don't need to teach your kids anything. Here's a coach for soccer, for basketball, or for piano, or for violin. You don't need to teach your kids anything spiritually. Here's the pastor and the youth group leader. You don't need to teach your kids anything. Here's the television. Here's the music. Here's Facebook. Here's Instagram. You don't need to impart anything into your kids. We got it all covered for you, man. We got it covered. We got all these wonderful activities and all these different ways. Oh, wait a second. You don't have to teach your kid anything. Here's an iPad for your child so they can have some screen time being taught by Disney. We literally have taken fatherhood and shrunk it down to sperm. It's not the truth. We literally, subliminally and all out boldly from our mouths to their ears told them we don't need them. This creates pressure on both sides, for the woman and for the man. Because now the woman somehow feels like she's got to fill that role, and we weren't made to fill that role. We were not made to be the protectors. We were not made to carry the full burden of provision. Ask the single mothers, they'll tell you all about it. We were not made to handle the future with the same strength or to think of things the way that men do. So we got to come together and redefine success in the relationships as men. For the rest of the show, we're going to hear from the men themselves. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
No excuses, no blaming, just real life. Stay tuned for more of The Dani Johnson Show.
Call now, 888-757-8880. I'm going to send you our report on how to feed your family on $100 a week. Get this hot thing in your hand now and you can begin to save hundreds of dollars just on your food bill. No clipping coupons, no way. I'm talking about simple little things that still, even my position, I'm still able to feed my family on $100 a week or less. You are going to learn how to do the same thing. 888-757-8880. Call now. Get your copy of this report.
We're back. Here's Dani Johnson.
Men often say, I wish women knew how we feel. My husband has said that to me. Actually, I wish you just understood how I think. You're missing it, Dani. Although that was a painful statement, the fact is it was true. And man, I'm telling you, I've been on a quest for the last several years. I want to learn. I want to understand how you think. So today's show, in redefining success in business and in life, we are allowing the mic to be controlled by the men. And men are going to tell us from their perspective, what are the struggles they're facing in today's society? How do they feel they are supposed to be as a man from their perspective? What do we feel we've lost as men in today's culture, and how are we going to get it back? Going over to the phones, we have line 5, Randy from Salt Lake City, Utah. Randy, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, Dani. How are you doing?
Good. Good to have you here. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, you bet. You bet. When I think of a real man, and again, I'll just fall on the way I perceive myself. I'm accountable. Mm-hmm. I feel that I'm a role model, not only for my family, but what I do at work and the leadership. I've always seemed to have been in a leadership position at work, and I want to carry that leadership, stay focused, be accountable. You know, if I make a promise, I keep it.
Yeah.
And say for my family, I'll go back to the family, you know, it's how I've treated and respected my wife for the past 37 years is what my children see.
Yep.
And I hear a lot from my daughters saying, wow, Dad, I hope I find a man just like you. And, you know, you love that. I mean, my daughters are 30 and 32, and we still talk almost daily.
Wow.
At that point.
Wow.
So, yeah, the real man is definitely a role model for the family.
Yep. So what would you say has really hurt men in today's world?
Just the perception that we keep hearing on TV and in media.
And what is that perception from your perspective?
I've never let it affect me that, you know, that we're, you know, the women are, you know, we're second citizens, or that, you know, the woman shouldn't be just at home raising children. That they should be running companies, which I agree with. That, you know, I've worked for some amazing women in my career, but I've never let the perceptions even affect me or bother me. I've worked for women before and had a great working relationship. I worked for a lot of men as well.
Randy, where did you get this it sounds like you respect women. Where did you get that from? Because that is not a very common perspective. Something I love about the Jewish culture is they have a very healthy respect for women. In fact, every Friday night on Shabbat, the men sing over their wives and the mothers of the household Proverbs 31. This is the perspective of women that they have. They celebrate women. They love women. They honor women. They respect women. It's an amazing culture that when I found that, it was totally different than I thought because of it being Middle Eastern. I thought it was totally different. But where did you, Randy, get this kind of an idea of respecting women? Because even you said, hey, yeah, women can run companies. I respect them. I've worked for some great women. Where did you get this?
Probably from my upbringing. I would say my mom as well. I heard earlier on callers that the mom was kind of the head of the family. Mom was there all the time. Dad worked. So, yeah, the perception was that Mom pretty well ran the family. But, no, my dad was a great leader himself and role model. But I would say just from my upbringing.
So you had a good relationship with your mom?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Very good relationship.
And she taught you to respect women?
Yes. And I have that total respect for my wife as well. And it goes both ways.
Versus being intimidated by women, threatened by women, or competing with your wife, you respect her and therefore she respects you.
Yes.
That's
in
awesome.
The same way in the workplace.
Same way in the workplace, yeah. Do you feel like this has helped you in the workplace at all? Because, some people are like, it doesn't matter what I think about women. No, it really does matter what you think about women. It really matters what we think about men. Because there are far more many women in the workplace today than ever, right? And if we've got issues, if a man has an issue with women, he's not going to do well in the workplace. If a woman has issues with men, she's not going to do well in the workplace. So it actually hurts our financial life when we've got that wrong perspective. And so do you feel like your respect for women has helped in the workplace?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Because they are in that position for a reason. And most of them are very, very capable to be good leaders. And I've learned from them as well. And they also respected my position as their subordinate.
Wow.
And maybe I was lucky with the ladies. I think my first boss was a lady.
Wow.
In the aerospace industry.
Wow. Now that's rare. Right? Like, what are the odds that you ended up with a woman in the aerospace industry as your first boss? That's like, what? But thank God for your mother, right? Thank God for your mother that she raised you to be a man who is secure in his own skin. That you did not feel put down because you had a female that was your boss. You're a rare man. I would have to agree with your daughters. They should marry someone like you.
Thank you.
They really should. Thanks so much, Randy, for contributing on today's show. We really appreciate your perspective and what you just shared. It inspires. It absolutely inspires me. Okay, we got Brian from Sacramento. Brian, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. What's your perspective on today's topic?
My perspective is that a real man is steady, safe, and gentle, but assertive, a warrior, dynamic, but very encouraging, and pulls out the best from his family and allows women to be themselves and to feel safe doing so, and cultivates and draws out the natural gifts that the family members and people in their lives have.
Yeah.
They elevate others.
Yeah.
That's the nature of men, is to husband by being, even if they're not a husband, but to be a husband of the relationships in their life.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, because Brian, actually what you just described is a leader. You described a leader. And that's exactly what men are born to be. They are born to lead. That is not to say that women cannot lead, but that is to say that men, when they were knitted together in their mother's womb, they were knitted with leadership in mind. And everything you just described is excellent leadership. What do you feel, Brian, is the biggest inhibitor to a man's leadership role?
the biggest inhibitor to a man's leadership role is not receiving those things himself. When someone appears to be strong and assertive and dynamic, they really need a lot of encouragement and affirmation, recognition and love and honor, and all the things that it kind of looks like they don't really have much use for. That is the fuel that burns the fire hotter, like that kerosene you talked about.
Yeah.
That draws the best out of them.
So wait a minute, Brian. So you're saying if a man works for a strong, powerful woman or is married to a strong, powerful woman, that woman needs to really put a focus on encouraging and affirming that man, the men that are in her life.
Yep.
Have you encountered a lot of women that are like that, or have you encountered women that are the opposite of that?
Well, women who are like that are naturally rare. Mm-hmm. I think that most women can be like that, but our culture has something of a hidden agenda to women and men at odds with each other. So women are encouraged by everything around them to put men down, and men are encouraged by everything around them to ignore and put women down.
Yep. Yep.
Unfortunately. I have some great examples of those kind of women in my life. I've worked with fairly strong women who they were not very well. And
Brian, I'm so sorry. Your phone is cutting out right now. Terrible.
No, I apologize.
There we go. It's back. Say it again. That you've worked with some strong, powerful women.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of women, and some are strong and a lot of powerful women, and some are encouraging, and some are not. And the ones who do the best are the encouragers. And it's not obvious. You don't see it right away. Well, it's not obvious that if you want a man to be the best, you would give him what he doesn't look like he needs. Right.
Wow, this is really so helpful. Actually, it's making me think in terms of, right here in my office. Obviously, I run a company, and I have a lot of men on our staff. A lot. It's actually, I think, almost mostly men that's in our office, and that helps me to focus a little bit better. That I probably need to be encouraging the men that I work with every day more so because of my personality, right? Because of what my positioning, and I probably need to focus a bit more on encouraging these guys a whole lot more. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more incredibly helpful tips from the men today, right after this.
Hey, have you done a favor for your best friend yet? Then do it now. Share this program with them. The Dani Johnson Show, helping people just like you make life more enjoyable and rewarding. The Dani Johnson Show.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success.
Now, more of the Dani Johnson Show.
Are you a complaining nag? Are you one that puts men down? Whether you're a man or a woman, men need encouragement. They need someone to believe in them. They need somebody to stand with them. They need to know that somebody is on their side. But boy, do we live in a society that has said we're all against you. We don't need you as a father. We don't need you as a role model. We don't need you. I think there's some songs that have been written about this. And I'm telling you here on the Dani Johnson Show, Success Redefined, I'm telling you right now, you will fail with that attitude. You will fail. You'll have the most miserable relationships at work and at home. You'll have the most miserable relationships out in society. I was raised in a full-on feminist home. A bunch of single moms who hated men. Talk about programming. Me, as a young girl, hearing that good-for-nothing blankety-blankety blank, okay, from my grandmother throwing plates at my father's head, cussing him out, little 5'4" Italian woman, my father's 6'10", 350 pounds, as he's running, ducking from the plates, okay? Good for nothing, you could just imagine. And then she would cuss in Italian. Terrible! But this is the generation that we live in. We are the fruit of that generation, and we are seeing the mess we have created. And if we want success, we've got to redefine it. Being a man-hater, as a man or a woman, does not help your finances. No way. It does not help your relationships. And bottom line, friend, you got to swallow this big old fat horse pill. We are not getting out of this life without dealing with men. So we've opened up the mic to the men today for the last 2 hours of the Dani Johnson Show. We've heard things about women in the workplace concerning men, what the men need. I'm telling you great stuff, how a man sees himself, what he was made for, not from the woman's perspective, but for the man's perspective. I love learning from these guys. They're amazing. All right, we got Christopher from New Haven, Connecticut. Christopher, what's your perspective on what a real man is, and how can us women help you be that? Because we're supposed to be the helpers. What can we do to help you?
Thanks, Dani, so much for having me on the call. It's a privilege and honor. This is a subject matter that I'm real passionate about. I think in reference to myself, how a woman could honor me is just to understand and respect my natural differences of just being a man.
Tell me more about that. Tell me, get specific on that. How can I do that? Will you teach me how?
Well, just understanding the mechanics and just the internal mechanism of what's important to men. You know, the protector and the provider mentality and the kind of core. And it also involves a lot of my own expressing. You know, I have to be able to communicate the things that are important to me so that the person understands what's important and how to support me. But on the same note, it's having that understanding they can support me in order to give me that validation and give me that strength and that guidance, as well as I do the same for them. So that's why I feel like we're strong men and strong women can coexist. Because I kind of believe that men are in a way at fault for kind of the way things have happened. You know, I think a lot of men are unaware of their place in society.
They are.
They've been kind of blindsided.
Totally.
By it.
Yep.
You know, and we say society has kind of made man irrelevant. Well, like man made us irrelevant.
That's right.
Man's quest for technology replaced the strong, brute force strength of a man to do what we used to do. And technology has kind of replaced the need for us.
Yeah.
And so men are kind of doing what they've always done. They provide, and they focus so much on the providing and the protecting that they leave so many other aspects out that the woman kind of needs to step up, like you said, to fill in that role.
Yeah.
And again, there's a lot of men who are being raised up without a strong father figure.
Yeah, and a mom who hates men.
Correct.
Yeah.
And also women or young girls who are being brought up without a father figure as well. It's not just
by a mom who hates men.
Right. Which is why you have, and I'm not saying this completely, but like why women want to be involved in combat arms roles in the military, and they kind of want there's something in them, almost like a masculine desire to fulfill that burning desire that typically men have.
Yep, that's true. That's very, very true. Thank you so much for helping me to understand that. You know what? I know for a lot of women, we have not understood his leadership. We have not understood his passion for providing and protecting. And very few women ever say, thank you, honey, for providing for our home. Very few women ever say, thank you, honey, for protecting our home. Thanks for thinking of those things. We just, again, we've been raised in a society that says we don't need him, so we don't even recognize or encourage or affirm his natural God-given abilities at all. That's huge for me, Christopher. I know what I got to do when I get home today.
In my marriage. That was huge in my marriage.
Yeah.
Like, having gone through like a lot of financial difficulties, it was only until the smoke started to clear and the understanding began between my wife and I that, like, we really clicked. Like it was the understanding and the respect of my role, and then my understanding and respect of her role, and we complemented each other perfectly.
Yeah.
And it just flourished how I thought about myself and where my place was in society.
And so when husbands are going through a hard financial time, it's important for us wives to not just assume we have to go get another job and you're not making enough, so I'm going to help provide, but that we encourage our husbands to say, I still believe in you. I still believe in you, and this is going to work out, and I'm behind you, and I don't care if we live in a little 500 square foot little cabin. I'm still going to stand by you, and I know that we're going to get through this, versus the nagging broad saying, we can't afford this, we can't afford that, things are too tight, I wish I could buy the kids shoes, but I can't. I want to grab those women and smack them. They need a spanking. They seriously do. They need a freaking spanking. Oh my gosh, I've learned so much today. Thank you so much, Christopher. I've learned so much from everybody that's called in, and unfortunately, we've completely ran out of time. We have more people that we needed to hear from, but unfortunately, we've got 60 seconds left. Hey, if you have enjoyed today's show, please write us and tell us. And if you'd like to hear more programs like this, let us know. I know this. We've got to be an answer in this world that is doing everything they can to divide men and women. This racism of gender is completely rooted in ignorance, and it's rooted in hatred and malice. And we are picking it up and we're spoon feeding it to our kids. And so we have boys that don't understand what it's like to be a boy, what they're supposed to be when they grow up. They don't know that this natural tendency to want to protect, to provide, to slay that monster out there and to bring home the bacon. They don't know that because we have told them we don't need them. They're not necessary. And so in the Dani Johnson Show, we're about redefining success, telling the truth about success. And I'm telling you right now, you better deal with your man issues. If you're a man or a woman, you might have man issues. Deal with those man issues, because you will not reach the fullness of your earning potential, your business or career potential. You will not reach the level and heights of success that your destiny calls you to if you do not have a solid, good understanding. What is a real man? Deal with your heart issues from the things in your past, the men who have failed you, so that you can rise up and be a man or a woman that can lead other men properly without competing, without insecurities, but just strong. Let's be who we are and be the best at it. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue tomorrow with another show teaching you the way for success.
You've been listening to The Dani Johnson Show. It's our belief that you can live a better, healthier, happier life. All you need is a little encouragement. Get that and more on the next Dani Johnson Show.
I remember being homeless and broke and broken in every way, and being overloaded with financial pressure, the pressure that I was a failure, the social pressure, everything that I felt like was crashing down on top of me. And at the same time, I felt so alone until I learned the strategies of first steps to success. You have the chance, my friend, to annihilate all of your debt. Think about that. You have the chance to grow your income through your current career, or even learning to start a brand new business that will be profitable. You also have the chance for learning how to motivate the people that are in your life that are driving you crazy, and how to have significant breakthrough, not only spiritually, but physically, financially, and socially, and business-wise. And so I'm excited to see you at First Steps to Success. It's coming up January 17th through the 19th. Get yourself registered today, 888-757-8880. There's a seat with your name on it, friend. 888-757-8880.